right, so we're just talking about what was happening at the border. Now, I find this to be interesting because we've been telling you that what has been happening up in Canada has been inundated with immigrants. Some of them were those who were fleeing the United States. They were in the country illegally in the U.S., and they decided to go ahead and go over to Canada. Now, Canada had said, basically, oh, yeah, come on over. We're totally good. And then all of a sudden, Canada saw exactly how many of them there were, and they went, whoa, hold on a second. And they started slowing down their immigration process. Even Trudeau was like, wow, we gotta slow this down quite a bit. Now, Canada is asking the U.S. to enforce its immigration laws to protect them. Oh, how things have turned, ladies and gentlemen. Canadian authorities concerned with the increasing number of illegal immigrants now straining their resources wants the United States to do a better job enforcing its own immigration law and vetting visitors from especially Nigeria so they don't eventually make their way to Canadian soil. Wow. According to the Washington Post, since it's become more difficult to stay in the United States on a temporary visa, Nigerians are requesting tourist visas from the United States, which already require a certain amount of vetting. But before those visas fully expire, the Nigerians are walking into Canada where they are requesting asylum. Huh. See, all those years that the Canadians were calling us mean and nasty about all of this, now they realize what's going on. And for the same exact reasons, there's security concerns. Keep in mind, Canada had some radicals that, some of them attempted terrorist acts, some of them did do some terrorist acts, but they've had some radicals that got caught up north. And then, of course, their social welfare system, which is already, it's stretched to the brink. Now, Canadian officials want the United States, which already vets tourist visa recipients, to kindly ask Nigerian tourists about their Canadian travel plans so that the U.S. can catch potential illegal immigrants at our border. So Canada is contacting the U.S. and going, yo, every time y'all run into a Nigerian, can you ask them if they're planning on coming to Canada? Think about this. Now, I want you to think, ladies and gentlemen, how would the American press and Hollywood handle a pasty white President Trump telling Canada or Mexico, yo, you need to have a chit-chat with these African Nigerians because we don't really want them in our country? Could you imagine the backlash that would happen if it were a white president of the United States that were telling Canada the same thing? You need to have a chit-chat with your Nigerian immigrants. Make sure they're not going to come over to my country. Could you imagine the blow-up, the accusations of racism, and all sorts of, I guess you would have xenophobia on there too, but really be the racism argument? And here you have the Canadian government going, we've got a real big problem with Nigerians like leaving the United States and staying here and requesting asylum. So can you maybe ask them about their Canadian travel plans? I might write an article on this and just say that Canada's racist. I might just do that. Why does Canada hate black Nigerians? Not all Nigerians are black, but, the point is that the left sets the rules. I'm just playing by them. Let's see. Authorities want U.S. immigration officials to reduce the foot traffic by screening Nigerians more stringently before granting them U.S. visas. Okay. Canada. What do you think would happen in our press with the ACLU and a bunch of other groups if all of a sudden the United States started screening Nigerians more vigorously than everybody else in the world? What do you think would happen? Have you seen the court cases over the travel moratorium, for crying out loud? Unlike the U.S., where illegal immigrants have to jump a border to evade immigration and customs enforcement agents, those entering Quebec, it's as simple as taking a taxi over the border from upstate New York. Well, their suitcases are neatly lined up as refugees wait for buses to take them to their temporary accommodations where they will receive food, shelter, medical care, financial support, work permits, schooling for their kids. and eventually a refugee hearing, according to the Globe and Mail. No wonder Canada is such a popular destination. By the way, for those of you who watched the Handmaid's Tale, the scenes where they get to the Canadian border, it was kind of funny that I saw that because like that's actually pretty accurate on how the Canadians treat people at Roxham. But now, Canada, and specifically Quebec, can't afford to feed, shelter, care for, and support countless refugees. You got to understand, this is a country that kicks out immigrants who get cancer. I love bringing that one up because, I mean, people get so butthurt about that, Tim, but it's true. People who immigrate to Canada legally, not illegally, but legally, and are allowed to stay in the country when they get cancer, Canada's like, yeah, universal health care, not for you. Later. The schools are overloaded with the immigration system. It's backed up. Thanks to a loophole in its immigration laws, Canada can't get rid of them. If you claim protected status once you make it onto Canadian soil, the government can't deport you until it's given you a fair hearing, a process that can take up to 2 years. Kind of like getting brain surgery. It could take up to 2 years in Canada. So instead of reforming its own laws, Canada, whose prime minister once excoriated President Donald Trump for Trump's strict interpretations of American immigration laws, wants the U.S. to be even stricter in extending tourist visas so that Canada doesn't have to admit it has a problem and either close or regulate its own borders. See, they want us to be the bad guys. So just so we're crystal clear, pasty white Justin Trudeau wants a white American president to more stringently screen out black Nigerians from Africa because that won't cause any kind of optical problem here in the United States at all with the social justice warrior movement. And also wants us to make our immigration restrictions much more strict when it pertains to the Canadian border. So that way Canada doesn't actually have to address the problem and be the global bad guy like we are. So they're essentially asking us to take the punches for them. And again, I want to set you in you have to understand, Canada's asking us to do this now. Imagine a world in which President Trump says, I like Justin Trudeau, and I'm very interested in making a new NAFTA agreement work with Canada. And so I'm going to do what he is asking because I can appreciate his concerns for border security. And him giving a press conference where he says, we are going to implement a more stringent vetting process only for Nigerians. What is Nigeria's population? Like 98% black? I mean, do we have to look it up? I'm in the ballpark. So, could you imagine how he would be attacked by everybody in this country if he actually issued a public statement where he did exactly what Trudeau is asking him to do? Have we not seen what stop and frisk in New York caused nationwide? Remember stop and frisk? Yeah, we don't talk about stop and frisk anymore, right, Tim? We don't do it. Because everybody said it was racist. You know how many lawsuits there were? And Canada wants the American president, a white guy, to go out there and tell everybody, yo, Nigerians who happen to be black, we're going to screen you more stringently than anybody else in the world because our pasty white neighbors to the north don't want you going into their country. Could you imagine the chaos that would happen as a result of this request if the president did it? My God. The thing is that Trump might do it. He might do it. I love the guy, but he might do it in the interest of building relationships with Canada and securing a better NAFTA negotiation. He might very well do it. I mean, I honestly have no idea if he would, but I mean, holy smokes, I almost want to see it happen just to see what would take place. But I mean, it's one of the most bizarre requests. It's laughable anyway that Canada is making this request about border immigration policy. But to make it specifically about screening out mostly black Africans? Oh my gosh. That can't fly here. They don't have to deal with the diversity that we have to deal with up in the cold white north. We got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.